The forest was silent, too silent. The tall alien trees stood like watchful guards, their silver leaves shining under the twin moons. A human figure moved slowly through the shadows, his boots pressing softly into the moss-covered ground. His name was Daniel, once a soldier, once a survivor, and now a man who had returned to the world he had sworn never to see again. His heart beat faster with every step. He could not forget the past. This was the land of the alien Huntresses, tall, fierce, and beautiful. They were warriors born to hunt, born to fight, and yet he had shared a strange and dangerous connection with them, a connection that haunted him even now. The wind carried whispers, soft and strange. He paused, his breath catching. He could almost hear voices calling his name. Daniel, Daniel. The sound came not from one direction, but from everywhere. It was as if the forest itself remembered him. He tightened his grip on the broken rifle he carried. It was useless now, just a piece of metal to remind him of battles long past. But holding it gave him courage. The memories of fire, smoke, and escape returned in pieces. He had been captured once by the Huntresses. Their eyes had been cold then, their blades sharper than death, but somehow he had lived. Somehow he had escaped. Now he was back. But why? Even he did not fully understand. Something had pulled him here, a dream that would not let him rest. A call he could not ignore. He walked deeper into the alien jungle, where the shadows grew thick and the silence heavy. Then, a crack of a branch behind him. He spun, heart racing. His eyes searched the darkness. Nothing moved, but he felt it. He was not alone. Another sound, this time to his left, then to his right. Shadows glided between the trees, tall shapes moving with deadly grace. The Huntresses, they were here. They had found him. Daniel's mouth went dry. He remembered their speed, their strength. He knew he could not fight them. Not now. Not ever. He raised his empty rifle anyway, his voice shaking. "Show yourselves," he whispered, but the forest only laughed back in silence. A figure stepped into the moonlight, tall and strong. Her skin glowed faintly, her eyes bright with a sharp light. A huntress. Her bow was lowered, but her gaze was fierce. Behind her, more stepped out, one after another, surrounding him in a circle of silent judgment. They did not attack. They only looked at him, their faces unreadable, their breathing calm. Daniel felt a shiver run down his spine. He had expected blades. He had expected death. But what he saw in their eyes was not only anger. It was something deeper, something he could not name. The first huntress spoke, her voice low but clear. "You returned," she said. The words were not a question. They were a fact. Her tone carried both fury and pain. Daniel swallowed hard. "I had no choice," he answered, his voice cracked as he said it. And in truth, he was not sure if it was a lie or the truth. Another huntress stepped closer. Her footsteps were silent, but her eyes burned with fire. "You left us," she whispered, her voice trembled, but not with fear, with rage, "and now you dare to walk here again." The circle grew tighter. Their bodies moved closer. He could see the glow of their armor, the strength in their arms, the sharpness of their weapons. Yet still, they did not strike. Daniel's chest rose and fell quickly. His instincts screamed at him to run, but his legs would not move. He was caught, not by chains, not by ropes, but by the weight of their stares. "You do not understand," he tried to say, his voice weak. "I never meant to." Silence. The leader snapped. Her voice echoed like thunder. She stepped forward, taller than the rest, her hair dark as night, her armor carved with symbols of power, her eyes locked on him like a hawk to prey. Daniel froze. Every memory of her returned at once. She was the Queen Huntress, the one who had spared him once, the one whose gaze had followed him even in his dreams. Her lips curled into something between a smile and a snarl. "You left us behind," she said slowly, each word sharp as a blade. "And now you return. Thinking time has forgiven you." The other huntresses murmured in agreement, their voices like the growl of a storm. Daniel's throat was dry. He wanted to speak, but no words came. His mind burned with questions. Why had they not killed him? Why had they not struck him down? Why did their eyes hold not just fury, but a strange longing? The queen took another step. So close now he could see the faint scars on her skin, the marks of countless battles. Her voice dropped into a whisper that chilled him to the bone. "You left us with more than memories," she said. Her eyes glowed brighter. "And now you must face what you abandoned." Daniel's heart stopped. He did not understand. Not yet, but the truth hung in the air like a storm about to break. The circle closed tighter. The Huntress's eyes glowed in the moonlight. His name echoed again from their lips. Daniel, Daniel, Daniel. The forest held its breath, waiting for his answer. And Daniel knew whatever awaited him was not mercy, it was judgment, and it had only just begun. Daniel stood frozen in the center of the circle. The Huntresses moved like shadows, silent and controlled, their glowing eyes fixed on him. The Queen Huntress stood tall in front of him, her expression carved in stone. Around her, the others breathed slow and steady, their presence pressing down on him like the weight of a mountain. He forced himself to raise his head. His voice shook, but he tried to sound strong. "Why did you not kill me?" he asked. "Why do you surround me like this?" His question hung in the cool air. The Queen's eyes narrowed. "Kill you," she said slowly, her words sharp. "Death would be too easy for one like you." She stepped closer, her shadow falling over him. "You returned to the ground you abandoned, and now you will answer." The Huntresses murmured in agreement. Their whispers echoed through the trees. Daniel could feel his heart pounding harder. The silence between their words was heavier than any roar. One of the younger Huntresses stepped forward. Her voice trembled, not with fear but with anger. "You left us," she whispered. Her hand gripped the handle of her spear so tightly that the wood creaked. "We gave you shelter when you were weak, and you repaid us with your absence." Daniel's lips parted, but no words came. He wanted to argue. He wanted to defend himself. But every memory of that time came back to him. The nights in their camp, the strange bond formed in fire and survival. The looks in their eyes that had confused him, he had not understood then, and he barely understood now. Another Huntress stepped closer. Her face was unreadable, but her voice was filled with quiet fury. "You touched us," she said, "and then you vanished into the stars." Daniel's stomach turned cold. He opened his mouth to speak, but the Queen raised her hand and silence fell instantly. Every Huntress stopped breathing for a moment, waiting for her words. The Queen looked at him with eyes that burned like coals. "We are not like your kind," she said. "We do not forget. We do not forgive so easily. When you left behind more than whispers. You left behind wounds that never closed." Daniel shook his head. "I never meant to hurt you," he said, his voice cracking. "I barely survived. I had no choice but to leave. I thought I would never return." The Queen stepped closer, her face now inches from his. Her breath was steady, her gaze unblinking. "But you did return," she whispered, "and that means fate has brought you back for a reason." The circle around him tightened. The Huntresses moved closer until he could almost feel the heat of their skin. Their weapons remained at their sides, but their stares were sharper than blades. One Huntress suddenly dropped to her knees, her hand pressed to the ground, her voice rising like a chant. "He is the one. He must face the truth," she said, her eyes glowed brighter. The others echoed softly, "The truth, the truth, the truth." Daniel's chest tightened. "What truth?" he demanded. His voice rose, stronger now with fear and frustration. "What is it you want from me?" The Queen raised her arm, and the chant stopped at once. Her lips curved into something between sorrow and anger. "We do not speak of it here," she said. "You will come with us, and you will see." Daniel shook his head. "I cannot trust you," he said. "You want to punish me, you want to drag me into some trap." The Queen's eyes darkened. "Trust is no longer yours to give," she said. Her voice was like stone breaking. "You will come, or you will be carried." The Huntresses' hands tightened around their weapons. The air grew heavier. Daniel knew he could not fight them. If they wished, they could break him in a moment, but they had not. They wanted something more than his death. He lowered his rifle slowly, his hands trembling. "If I go with you," he said, "will you give me answers?" The Queen's lips curved into the smallest, coldest smile. "You will have more answers than you ever wanted," she whispered. The circle opened. leaving a narrow path between the towering huntresses. The queen turned and walked forward, her steps silent but full of command. The others gestured for Daniel to follow. He hesitated, his breath quick and shallow. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but curiosity pulled at him stronger than fear. He needed to know, he needed to understand what they meant. Step by step, he followed. The huntresses closed the circle again behind him, trapping him in their path. Together they moved deeper into the alien forest. The silver leaves above seemed to whisper. The ground itself seemed to watch. Hours passed as they walked, or maybe it was only minutes. Time felt broken here. Daniel's thoughts raced with questions. What truth awaited him? What had he left behind? Why did their voices tremble with both fury and longing? Finally, the trees opened into a vast clearing. In the center stood a great stone structure, carved with strange glowing symbols. It pulsed faintly like a living heart. The huntresses stopped, their eyes fixed on the stone. The queen turned to him. Her gaze was heavy, her voice like iron. "Here," she said, "you will face what you abandoned." Daniel's breath caught. The whispers of the forest grew louder. His name echoed in the air once more. Daniel, Daniel. The huntresses surrounded him again, but this time their eyes held something more than anger. They held expectation. They held judgment. And as Daniel stared at the glowing stone, he knew his journey had only just begun. The stone structure glowed softly, its surface alive with strange symbols. Daniel felt his chest tighten as he stared at it. The huntresses formed a half circle around him, their faces set like masks of judgment. Only the queen stood close, her tall figure casting a long shadow across the stone. "This place," she said, her voice steady and cold, "is where truth cannot be hidden. Here no lie can survive. Every scar, every memory, every bond is revealed." Daniel's throat went dry. He wanted to step back, but the circle of huntresses left him no space. Their glowing eyes pinned him where he stood. He forced himself to raise his chin. "What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice breaking. The queen's eyes narrowed. "Not what we want," she said. "What you left behind." She gestured to the stone. Her hand was firm, her gaze unshaken. "Touch it," she ordered. Daniel hesitated. His palms were slick with sweat. He did not trust them. He did not trust this strange place. But something in the queen's tone told him that refusal was impossible. Slowly, he raised his hand and pressed his palm against the glowing surface. The stone grew warmer. Light spread beneath his fingers. Symbols flared like fire and then shifted, showing shapes, movements, memories. Daniel gasped as visions flooded his mind. He saw flashes of his past, his capture, his nights among the huntresses, the strange connection he had shared with them. His heart pounded as the visions grew clearer. Then the image changed. A huntress stepped forward in the vision, her form glowing. She was holding her stomach, swollen and heavy with life. Another image followed. Another huntress cradling a child, the child's eyes wide and bright, human eyes inside an alien face. Daniel's knees weakened. He stumbled back from the stone. "No," he whispered, his voice filled with shock. "This cannot be." The queen's gaze never left him. Her eyes blazed like fire. "It is," she said. Her voice shook for the first time, a mix of rage and pain. "You touched us, and our kind carried what no one thought possible." The huntress's whispers rose like a storm around him, their voices sharp and trembling. "He left us. He abandoned the children. He fled from his blood." Daniel's chest tightened. His breaths came fast and uneven. He shook his head again and again. "I did not know," he cried. "I swear I did not know. I never meant to." Silence. The queen snapped. Her voice cut through his words like a blade. She stepped closer, her face inches from his. "You left us carrying your children. You vanished into the void while we bore the burden. Do you understand what that means for us?" Her words hit him like arrows. His mind spun. Children, his children. The thought tore at him. It seemed impossible, but the visions, the stone, the voices, everything screamed truth. One huntress moved forward. Her hand rested on her stomach. Her eyes glowed with both anger and sorrow. "They laughed at us," she whispered. They called us cursed. They called us liars. They said no human could leave such a mark. Yet here you stand, the proof of our shame and our strength. Another huntress stepped into the light. She carried a small child in her arms. The child's hair was dark, its eyes shining like Daniel's. The sight struck him harder than any battle ever had. His legs almost gave out. He whispered again, softer this time, "My child." The whispers of the huntresses turned into cries, some full of anger, others heavy with pain. The queen lifted her hand, and the noise fell silent once more. She looked down at the child, then back at Daniel. "You see," she said, "you cannot run from this. You left us with life, with children who do not belong in either world. And now you return, you will face the weight of what you abandoned." Daniel's voice trembled. "I never meant to leave them. I never even knew. I thought I was escaping death. I thought I would never return." The queen's face hardened. "Ignorance is no shield," she said, her words heavy with power. "These children carry your blood, and our people demand justice." The circle of huntresses moved closer. Their steps echoed against the stone. Their voices rose in unison. "Justice, justice, justice." Daniel's chest burned with fear, but beneath it, something else stirred, a flicker of determination, a whisper of responsibility. He looked at the child again, and for the first time, he did not feel only fear. He felt a bond. He clenched his fists, his voice steadied. "If they are mine," he said, "then I will not abandon them again." The queen's eyes widened slightly. Her lips tightened as if fighting to hold back emotion. She studied him for a long moment, then turned her gaze to the others. "Words are air," she said finally. Her voice carried both judgment and challenge. "If you claim them, then you must prove yourself for their sake, for ours, for the bond you forged without knowing." The huntress's whispers rose again, some voices angry, others hopeful. The queen's gaze cut through the noise. She raised the child high for all to see. "Here is the truth," she declared. "A human left us with his children. A human dared to abandon our blood. But now he stands here once more, and fate will decide if he is worthy." The child's bright eyes locked on Daniel. His chest ached, his heart pounded. He knew nothing would ever be the same again. And as the queen lowered the child, her voice turned sharp. "Prepare yourself, human," she said. "Your trial has only begun." The clearing was heavy with silence. The glowing stone pulsed faintly, casting shadows across the faces of the huntresses. Daniel stood frozen, his chest rising and falling fast. His mind spun with the image of the child's eyes, eyes that looked like his own. The queen huntress held the child close, her gaze fixed on Daniel. Her voice carried the weight of command. "You abandoned us," she said, "and in doing so, you abandoned them. These children are the blood of two worlds, yet they were born in shame. Do you know what that means for us?" Daniel swallowed hard. His voice trembled. "I never knew. I swear it. I never meant to leave them. I thought my escape was survival. I thought I would never return." The queen's eyes narrowed, her expression unreadable. "Your ignorance does not wash away your crime," she said. Her words struck him like blows. "Among our kind, leaving the bond of blood is a crime of the deepest dishonor. It is punishable by death." The huntresses around him murmured. Some nodded with anger, their voices sharp with fury. Others lowered their heads, torn by something deeper. Their whispers rose like a storm. Punishment, justice, death. Daniel's heart pounded. He took a step forward, his voice breaking. "If I had known, I would have stayed. I would never abandon my children. Not now, not ever." The queen's face hardened. Her eyes glowed brighter in the moonlight. "Words are easy," she said, "but words do not bind wounds. Words do not shield the weak. Words do not protect the blood of two worlds." She raised her hand, and the murmurs stopped. The huntresses fell silent, waiting for her judgment. Her voice rang clear. "You will not be executed now. Not yet. Instead, you will stand trial by our law. You will prove whether you are worthy of the life you created or whether your bloodline will be erased." Daniel's stomach tightened. He looked around at the circle of glowing eyes. "What kind of trial?" he asked, his voice low. The queen stepped closer, her shadow falling across him. "A trial by combat," she said, "and a trial by heart. You will face our strength, and you will face your own truth. If you endure, if you fight not only with hands but with spirit, then you may claim your children. If you fail, you will die, and your name will be erased forever." The words struck him cold. He wanted to argue, to refuse, but deep inside he knew there was no choice. They would not let him walk away. The Huntresses wanted more than his death. They wanted proof. They wanted to see if humanity could carry such a burden. Daniel clenched his fists, his voice steadied. "Then I will face your trial," he said. "I will not run again." The Huntresses stirred. Some hissed in anger. Others watched in silence. The queen studied him closely, her eyes sharp as blades. For the first time, there was a flicker of something else in her gaze, not anger, not rage, something harder to define. She lifted the child again. The small one reached out a hand, tiny fingers curling in the air toward Daniel. His heart twisted, his breath caught. The queen's voice cut through the moment. "If you fail," she said, "these children will grow without a father, and your blood will vanish into dust." Daniel met her gaze. His own eyes burned with determination. "Then I will not fail," he said. His words were quiet but strong. The queen lowered the child, her expression unreadable. She turned to the others. "Prepare the grounds," she commanded. "The trial begins when the moons align." The Huntresses bowed their heads. Some disappeared into the shadows to ready the place of judgment. Others lingered, their eyes on Daniel. Their whispers were sharp and filled with doubt. "He cannot win. He is only human. He will break." Daniel stood alone as the circle opened. The forest pressed in around him. His mind raced. He was no longer only a soldier, no longer only a survivor. He was a father, and now his fate and the fate of his children rested on a trial he did not understand. The queen approached him once more. Her voice dropped to a whisper that only he could hear. "Do not think this trial is only strength," she said. "Our blades will test your body, but your choices will test your soul. Fail either, and all will be lost." Daniel met her eyes. His chest rose with a shaky breath. "Then I will give everything," he whispered back. The queen studied him for a long moment. Then she turned sharply and walked away. Her armor caught the moonlight, her figure tall and commanding. The others followed, leaving Daniel alone in the glow of the stone. He stood there, his thoughts racing. The whispers of the Huntresses still echoed in his ears. The image of the child's eyes burned in his mind. He knew the coming trial would break him or change him forever. And as the twin moons slowly moved toward alignment above the alien forest, Daniel whispered to himself, "For them, I will fight for them. I will not fall." The forest answered with silence, heavy and watchful, and in that silence, Daniel felt the weight of destiny pressing down on him. The trial was coming, and there would be no turning back. The night air was sharp and heavy. The twin moons glowed above, sliding slowly into alignment. Their light poured across the alien clearing, where the stone structure pulsed like a living heart. Daniel stood near its glow, his body tense, his mind full of storm. The Huntresses moved around him with silent discipline. Some sharpened their weapons. Others painted their skin with war marks. Their glowing eyes often turned toward him, some filled with scorn, others unreadable. The forest seemed alive with whispers, carrying his name again and again. "Daniel, Daniel." The queen huntress stood apart, her tall form lit by the moons. She spoke with her warriors in low tones, giving orders, preparing for what was to come. Yet her eyes returned often to him, sharp and steady. Daniel clenched his fists, his heart hammered. He had faced battlefields. He had faced alien claws and fire. But this trial was different. This was not survival alone. This was judgment, a test of worth as a father, as a human, as something more. He took a slow breath, forcing strength into his voice. "You think I will fail," he said, loud enough for the circle to hear. "You think I'm only human, weak, fragile, unworthy." The Huntresses turned toward him. Their eyes narrowed, their whispers hushed. He stepped forward, his shadow stretching across the ground. You believe my kind are small compared to yours, he continued. His voice rose with every word. But hear me now. Humans do not break so easily. We fight when the sky falls. We endure when the world burns. We rise when all hope is gone. A ripple moved through the Huntresses. Some frowned. Others tilted their heads. The Queen's expression did not change, but her eyes locked on his every word. Daniel pressed a hand to his chest. I may not have your strength. I may not have your weapons, but I have something else. I have the will to stand. I have the will to protect. I will not run again. I will not abandon my children. Even if I must fight every one of you, I will not fall. The circle stirred. Some Huntresses muttered with anger. Arrogance, pride, empty words. They whispered, but a few exchanged glances, a flicker of uncertainty in their eyes. One Huntress stepped forward, her face twisted in scorn. You speak like a warrior, she said, but you are a man of dust. Your blood is thin, your body weak. You could never protect them from us. She raised her spear, pointing it toward him. Say it again, if you dare. Daniel's jaw tightened. He stepped closer, his eyes blazing. I will protect them, he said, his voice steady. Not from fear, not from duty, but because they are mine, because they are ours, because no human abandons family. The Huntress growled, her grip tightening on her spear. But before she could strike, the Queen raised her hand. Silence fell instantly. The Queen's voice rang clear across the clearing. He speaks boldly, she said, but bold words are nothing without proof. The trial will show us whether his defiance is strength or delusion. Daniel's chest heaved. He did not look away from the Queen. Then let the trial come, he said, and you will see. The Queen's gaze lingered on him. For the first time, her expression flickered, a shadow of doubt or perhaps something more. She turned sharply to her warriors. Prepare the circle, she commanded. The Huntresses moved with swift purpose, carving lines into the earth, arranging stones that glowed with faint light. The air thickened with energy, as if the ground itself remembered countless trials before this one. Daniel stood alone as the circle formed. The whispers of the Huntresses grew louder, their voices mixing anger and curiosity. He will break. He cannot win. Yet he stands. He defies. He felt their eyes like fire on his skin, but inside, his resolve only grew. He thought of the child he had seen, of the tiny hand reaching for him, of the faces of the Huntresses torn between fury and hope. He could not fail them. He would not. The Queen returned to the center of the circle, her eyes fierce, her voice like thunder. Human, she said, you have spoken of strength, of will, of family. Now you will prove it. Your trial begins when the moons align. You will face challenges of body and of spirit, and only if you endure will you be judged worthy. Daniel nodded. His voice was steady. I will endure. The Queen's eyes narrowed. Do not think this is for you alone, she said. It is for the children. It is for the bond between worlds. Fail, and their future dies with you. The Huntresses stamped their weapons into the ground. A deep sound that shook the air. The circle glowed brighter, the moons above sliding closer to perfect alignment. Daniel lifted his head, his heart beat like a war drum. He whispered to himself, For them, I will fight. For them, I will not break. The Queen raised her hand, her voice cutting through the night. Let the trial be prepared, she declared. The moons glowed brighter, the circle burned with light, and the forest itself seemed to hold its breath. The trial of humanity was about to begin. The moons moved into perfect alignment. Their silver light spilled across the clearing, bathing the circle of glowing stones in otherworldly fire. The Huntresses stood in silence, their weapons gleaming, their faces carved with expectation. Daniel stood alone at the center, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. The Queen Huntress raised her arm. Her voice rang across the clearing. The trial begins, she declared. He will face us. He will prove if he has the strength to claim what he abandoned. The Huntresses stamped their weapons into the earth. The sound echoed like thunder. Daniel tightened his fists. He had no blade, no shield, only his body and his will. Yet his eyes burned with defiance. The first Huntress stepped into the circle. She was tall and broad, her muscles carved with power. Her spear gleamed in the moonlight. Her voice was low. "One strike will end you. Human, step back now and accept your death with silence." Daniel shook his head, his voice steady. "I will not step back. I will not fall." The huntress lunged, her spear sliced through the air. Daniel twisted aside. The point missing his chest by inches, he stumbled, but did not fall. He grabbed a broken branch from the ground, his only weapon. He swung hard. The branch cracked against the spear shaft, sparks flying. The huntress snarled, pressing forward. Her strength was overwhelming. But Daniel did not fight her strength with strength. He fought with speed, with cunning. He ducked low, rolled across the dirt, and slammed the branch against her knee. She staggered, just for a moment. The circle of huntresses murmured. Their eyes followed every move. Some frowned with anger. Others watched with growing interest. Daniel rose, his chest burning. His voice carried across the clearing. "You are strong, but strength is not only in the arm. It is in the will to stand again and again." The huntress roared and swung again. But Daniel slipped aside, his branch shattered in his hands. Yet he did not stop. He threw the broken pieces into her eyes, forcing her back. With one desperate leap, he slammed his shoulder in her chest. The impact knocked her onto the ground. The circle gasped. Silence followed. The huntress groaned, then rose slowly to her knees. Her gaze burned, but she bowed her head. "He stands," she said quietly. "He does not fall." She stepped back into the circle, defeated. The queen's eyes narrowed. She gestured sharply. "Next," she commanded. Another huntress stepped forward, smaller but faster, twin blades gleaming in her hands. She circled him like a predator. Her voice was a hiss. "Your body cannot match mine. I will cut you until nothing remains." Daniel steadied his breathing. Sweat rolled down his face. His muscles ached, but his spirit held firm. The huntress struck with lightning speed, her blades flashing. Daniel blocked one with his forearm. Pain tearing through him. He caught the other with both hands, forcing it away. Her strength pressed down. Her eyes glowed with fury. Daniel gritted his teeth. "You fight with speed," he said, his voice low, "but speed is nothing without purpose." With a sudden twist, he slammed his forehead into hers. The shock made her stumble back. Her blades dropped for a heartbeat, and Daniel kicked them aside. She snarled and charged again, but he caught her by the arm, dragging her down. Both crashed into the dirt. Dust rose around them. They wrestled, her body stronger, her claws sharper, but Daniel fought with desperation, with fire. With a final heave, he pinned her beneath him, his arm pressing against her throat. She struggled, then froze. Her eyes burned, but slowly she raised her hand and tapped the ground. The mark of surrender. Daniel released her and stumbled back. His body shook, his arms bloody, but he still stood. The huntresses whispered louder now, their voices no longer filled with only anger. Some held doubt, others respect. Their gazes shifted. Something was changing. The queen raised her hand again. "Enough," she said. Her voice echoed with power. She stepped into the circle, her eyes locked on Daniel. "You defy. You endure. But the trial is not over. You have faced the strength of body. Now you will face the weight of spirit." Daniel breathed hard, his chest burned, his arms trembled. Yet he lifted his head and met her gaze, then let it come. He said, "I will not break." The queen's lips curved, not into a smile, but into something sharper. "We will see," she whispered. The huntresses stamped their weapons once more. The circle of stones pulsed brighter. The forest itself seemed to lean closer. The combat trial had ended, but another test was rising. Daniel's body was battered. His blood marked the earth, but his spirit burned brighter than before. He had survived the storm of blades. He had proven he could stand. But as the queen's eyes pierced him, he knew the hardest part was yet to come. A trial not of muscle, but of soul. A trial that could shatter him more than any spear. The night deepened. The moons glowed high. The huntress's chants filled the air, and Daniel whispered to himself, "For them, I will endure. For them, I will not fail." The air was heavy with silence. The combat was over. Daniel stood bruised and bleeding in the glowing circle, His body trembled, but his eyes burned with defiance. The Huntresses watched him with sharp attention. Their whispers carried through the night. He stands, he endures, he does not fall. The Queen Huntress stepped forward, her tall figure glowing under the twin moons. Her voice cut through the clearing like steel. "You have faced the trial of strength," she said, "but one test remains, the test of spirit, the trial of heart." Daniel's breath came hard, his voice shook but carried weight. "Then test me," he said. "I will not abandon them again." The Queen's eyes narrowed, her hand lifted, and the Huntresses parted. From the shadows, several young ones were brought forth, children, their eyes wide, their small hands reaching. Their features were mixed, alien grace and human spark. Daniel's chest tightened. His knees almost gave way. He whispered, "My children." His voice cracked. The sound was softer than any battle cry, but stronger than steel. The Queen's gaze was unrelenting. "They are yours," she said, "but they are also ours. They carry two worlds in their blood. They will always walk between. Will you claim them knowing this burden? Will you raise them knowing they may never belong to either side?" The circle of Huntresses grew silent, every eye fixed on him. The children looked at him with innocent trust. The forest itself seemed to wait. Daniel's heart thundered. He stepped forward, dropping to his knees before the children. His hands shook as he reached for them. "They are mine," he said, "no matter what world rejects them. I will not. No matter who calls them cursed, I will call them family. I will protect them until my last breath." The children moved closer. One reached out, placing a small hand against his scarred cheek. Daniel closed his eyes, his tears falling freely. He whispered again, "I will never leave you." The Huntresses shifted uneasily. Some lowered their weapons. Some exchanged uncertain glances. They had expected pride, arrogance, or weakness, but what they saw instead was something different, something human. The Queen's expression remained hard, but her eyes flickered for a brief moment. Her voice softened. "You speak with heart," she said, "but words are wind. If you claim them, you must also claim us. You will live among us, fight beside us, and stand as their shield. Do you accept this fate?" Daniel rose slowly, his body broken but his spirit unshaken. He met her fierce gaze. "I accept," he said. His voice was steady. "Not as punishment, not as duty, but as father, as protector, as man." The circle stirred, whispers spread. Some voices trembled with anger. "He cannot stay. He is not one of us." Others spoke with awe. "He stands, he claims, he is more than we thought." The Queen lifted her hand, silencing them all. Her voice rang clear. "Then it is done. The trial is complete. The human stands as father, as protector, as blood of our blood." The Huntresses bowed their heads, not in submission, but in respect. The ground seemed to hum with power. The glowing stone pulsed brighter, as if sealing the oath. Daniel looked around. His chest rose with pride and exhaustion. He saw in their eyes not only fury now, but something else, acknowledgement, respect, even hope. He turned to the children, his heart swelling. He whispered, "This is only the beginning." The Queen stepped closer. Her voice dropped low, almost soft. "Perhaps humanity is not as small as we thought," she said. "Perhaps your defiance is not weakness, but strength." Daniel met her eyes, his own voice quiet. "Perhaps together we are stronger." The moons shone brighter. The forest echoed with strange whispers. The children laughed softly, their voices pure and new. Daniel held them close, feeling their warmth. The Huntresses stood tall around him, no longer only his judges, but now his tribe. Their voices rose in unison, not with anger, but with solemn promise. "He stands with us. He stands for them. He stands." Daniel closed his eyes. His body ached, but his spirit soared. He had come back to a world of hunters and judgment. He had faced trials of strength and soul. He had been broken and rebuilt. Now he was not just a man, not just a survivor. He was a father. He was part of something greater. And as the night carried on beneath the aligned moons, Daniel whispered once more, a vow carried into the stars. "For them, I will fight for them. I will endure for them. I will never fall. The legacy of two worlds had begun.